session, Sanjay Mansukhani. He is a master coach with 20 years of experience of Master Key System, America's top self-manifestation course. MKS is a secret behind the secret. He has coached 9,000 plus people. He is the founder of ChangeDestiny.in and through live Zoom interactive MKS classes since more than 146 home meetings. Business leader, top executive, and student have created a paradigm shift in their destiny. Over to you, sir, Sanjay sir.
Thank you, Varsha. It's been a pleasant opportunity to speak about Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And thank you, YMI, for giving this opportunity. As I was talking about it in the last session, I believe that Patanjali Yoga Sutras is the compilation of all yogic knowledge in this country from about 5000 BC to 2400 BC. But this literature has not been adopted well by the, I would say, the current Indian people, but it is highly popular in US. Every third house in America has a book on Patanjali Yoga Sutras because it talks about the very core of yoga, what yoga is all about. So in the last session, I had told you that there are 4 chapters in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. The first chapter is called Samadhi. The second chapter is Sadhana. The third chapter is Vibhuti. And the fourth chapter is on Kaivalya. Now, people who follow the Jain religion would understand Kaivalya very well. That is the state, that is the Gyan which the Tirthankars receive. Mahavir Jain was one last Tirthankar who had received Kaivalya Gyan. So Patanjali Yoga Sutras takes you from wherever you are today to the ultimate state of enlightenment, and all through 196 sutras. You see, there has been a question which is asked many a times as to what is yoga. Yoga can be understood as coming together, joining of two. But then the question again arises, joining of which two? Because this is a very pertinent question, joining of which two? In one of the last sessions, I had told you a human being has both the infinite and the finite in him. So when the infinite and the finite meet together, it can be called yoga. Then one is able to identify the infiniteness in a person, in himself, and that infiniteness, once discovered, gives power to that individual. He starts being healthy. He has loving relationships. He has no shortage of money. All his needs are taken care of. He enjoys a good health. So all that a man aspires for can happen easily with yoga for him. But at the same time, yoga is disjointing also. You may ask me, what is this disjointing? What is being separated out here? You see, in life around us, we find there are 2 entities. One is consciousness and another is matter. It may be called as spirit and matter also. And the interface between the two, between the spirit and the matter, is the mind. So now matter is visible, mind is invisible, the spirit is invisible. When we are able to take out the spirit out of a living being, when the consciousness comes out of Prakriti, then the ultimate stage of yoga is said to have been reached. Now, what do I mean by Prakriti? Prakriti is matter, and this matter has essentially 5 forms, 5 tattvas, dharti, jal, agni, vayu, akash. All matter is composed of permutations and combinations of these 5. But these 5 themselves are made up of 3 gunas, the sattva guna, the rajas guna, and the tama guna. Now these 3 gunas are 3 independent qualities, gunas, which Prakriti has. at the initial formative stage. They are called the Mool Prakriti Gunas. Now, imagine a scenario where consciousness or the Purusha, consciousness in Patanjali Yoga Sutras is called the Purusha. Others even call it the Atma, the soul, the higher self. So whenever we repeat the word Purusha out here, it simply means the consciousness within us. So when initially the Purusha came to the Prakritic stage, the first thing it merged into was Sattva. And from there, the creation started. The first creation which came was called the intelligence, the Buddhi. And that Buddhi again gave rise to Ahankar. And Ahankar in turn gave rise to Man, which is also called as Manas. And these three together, the Manas, the Ahankar, and the Buddhi, they form the Chitta. So, if you remember, we had discussed in one of the earlier sutras where Patanjali says Yoga, Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha. That means when the vrittis are gone, vrittis are active thoughts, vrittis are fluctuations in the mind. When the vrittis are gone, when the fluctuations in the mind are gone, then yoga takes place. Okay, so this is a very important definition of yoga. We will keep on coming to it again and again. But since I was talking about the Purusha and the Prakriti, let me just take you through that journey between the Purusha and the Prakriti. Nidhi yesterday was interested in knowing about Prakriti. She was asking questions about it. So Purusha, let us start with the Purusha. Purusha is nothing but the consciousness. Purusha is the witness. And Purusha has no evolutes. That means the Purusha does not produce anything out of itself. But let us look at the Prakriti. Prakriti is the world of matter around us. We all know that we are in a world which has both consciousness and matter. So let us look at matter. Let us look at Prakriti now. The Prakriti has the three gunas, the three qualities, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, as I told you initially. Now this Prakriti actually is unmanifest. It is primordial matter. It is a matter right at the beginning of time. And it is the witnessed. Purusha, the witness, witnesses Prakriti, the matter. And that is what this whole game is about. Between us as the consciousness and between us as the matter, watching the matter. And once we are able to understand the differentiation, the discrimination between the Purusha and the Prakriti, then real magic starts happening in our life. Real power comes to a yogi. As you go deeper and deeper into understanding what is the undifferentiated, what is not discriminated, what is one totality, as you keep on penetrating inside, as you keep on dividing it, cutting it into various sections, you will find your understanding going deeper and deeper, and you will find that you are in control of this universe. The universe starts behaving like a baby. You can make it stand up, you can make it sit down, you can make it run, but to acquire that amount of power, one needs to understand in depth what Prakriti is all about and how its various evolutes are formed. Evolutes mean what all has evolved out of Prakriti. Because we saw nothing evolves out of Purusha, but a lot of things evolve out of Prakriti. And for the serious student, this is important to know. So I'm covering it up at this stage. When the Prakriti evolves, the first thing which happens is that the individuation, the first things happen. The first individual entity comes out, and that is Buddhi. And that Buddhi, as I told you, comes out of the merger of Purusha and Sattva. And then it further becomes Ahankara. Ahankara is ego. Ahankara is self-identity. Then the identity of the self comes. Till then, there is no identity of the self. Till then, we had consciousness separate and matter in the primordial stage, in the nascent stage, in the ancient stage as independent. But then the first appearance is of buddhi. Buddhi leads to ahankara. Ahankara means self-presence, self-identity, ego. And from ahankara, from the self-identity, it moves into three directions. You have sattvic ahankara, you have rajasic ahankara, and you have tamasic ahankara. Very, very important to understand this, because the philosophy of yoga is based on this. And once you are able to have a clear understanding of this, then we will be able to understand in the third chapter. A lot of talk is there about the various siddhis which a yogi attains. And there are a number of them, 30, 40 of them listed down. And how they are achieved are also given in the sutra form by Patanjali. But unless and until we understand how Prakriti evolves, what shape Prakriti takes, we will not be able to understand how these siddhis actually work. Where does the power come from? So, in a very brief way, Sattvic Ahankara is mind, manas. So, the mind comes here. And when this Ahankara interacts with uh, Rajasic Ahankara, then we have the five senses of the human body. They are hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling. They're also called the uh, Srut, Twak, Chakshu, Rasana, and Gharana. So these five senses are important for any individual to see what is happening in this world of matter and life. And also from this come the five karmindriyas. Karmindriyas are the indriyas of action. We are constantly acting in the universe. It is just not that we are merely perceiving the universe. We are constantly acting in the universe. And those five senses of action are speaking, grasping, moving, excreting, and procreating. So they are connected with our tongue, our two hands, our two legs, our organ of excretion, and our organ of sex. So through these five, action is done in the world outside, in the universe outside. And data is taken from the universe outside, from the world outside, to the five sense organs of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the skin. Now you see, at this stage, the Prakriti has given shape to an individual. There is intellect, buddhi, there is ego, ahankara, there is manas, mind, there are five organs of action, and there are five sense organs. But does it end here? No. It goes further than this. The same ahankara, once it takes on a tamasic role, then it gives birth to five tanmatras. These tanmatras are sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. They are the subtle organs, and these five tanmatras by themselves give birth, give shape, give evolution to the five mahabhutas, the five tattvas which we are talking about. Dharti, Jal, Agni, Vayu, Akash. Now with these entities, with these, if you count them, they represent what all is there in our world of a human being. First there is the consciousness. Second, there is the prakriti. Prakriti has the three qualities. These three qualities interact with Purusha. They produce intelligence, they produce ego, and they produce the mind. Now, they also produce the five organs of action. They also produce the five sense organs. And then it goes further. They produce the five subtler, I would say, organs of sense, the tanmatras. They are behind what we are actually sensing, and it is made out of tamas and ahankara put together. And we also look at the five elements of matter now, the five tattvas, dharti, jal, agni, vayu, and akash. If these entities, which I just listed out for you, if you are able to understand them, if you are able to gain an insight in them, if you have a personal experience of them, don't just believe me. Don't just go by my words. Don't just go by my experience or the experience of other people who have gone on this path. Uh, Take them as an input, but actually relive them. Actually, you put them to use. And then you will realize this machine called human being, which has these activities which it can do. It can perform absolute miracles, absolute miracles. And that is why I was telling you it is important to know them, understand them in complete depth. Only then the other chapters will open up for you, and you will be astounded by what we have been missing out in our life. You will be shocked that so much power was there within you, which you never understood and which you never put to use. It can be put to tremendous use. It can do wonders for ourselves as an individual, for our families, for our clans, for our community, for our nation, and for this world. This world has not seen true yogis in a long time. So if we just don't blindly follow the textbooks, blindly follow other books, if we try to live it up, then you will find magic happening in your life, absolute magic happening in your life. And you will be able to understand the science of how these siddhis are working, which the yogis have. So we will come to those siddhis later on, and we'll come to these basic entities in a human being later on as we proceed. If you remember the last time, I was telling you about chapter 1, and the first chapter talks about samadhi. Okay, what is samadhi? So Patanjali has defined the various kinds of samadhis, and I will take you through those various kinds of samadhis. But before that, last time you were covering about the vrittis. Patanjali in the second sutra had said, Yoga, Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha. These vrittis have to go. So what are vrittis? Vrittis are active thoughts in us. But don't we have thoughts? We have so many thoughts inside us. Yes, we have so many thoughts inside us. But they are not active all the time. Vritti is a thought which is in action. Vritti is a thought which is in motion. Vritti is a thought which is like a ripple. Fluctuations of the mind are vrittis. Modifications of the mind are vrittis. So there is action happening. There is life in those thoughts. They are active thoughts. So active thoughts can simply be understood as vrittis. Now, while covering these, we saw that when these vrittis get subdued in us, when these vrittis get inactive in us, when these vrittis go to sleep, that is the time when the yoga takes place. That is the time when the finite in us meets the infinite in us. That is the time when the human in us meets the divine in us. That is the time when the individual in us meets the universal in us. Uh, the five vrittis which Patanjali talks about, they are knowledge, right knowledge. Any knowledge which we receive, either through our sense organs or through inference, applying logic, or as a verbal testimony from an authoritative person, they are considered to be right knowledge. We had seen it the last time. What is wrong knowledge? He talks about vritti also as wrong knowledge. So wrong knowledge is where our sense organs are seeing or perceiving one thing, but the fact is another. There's something else which we have not been able to see. The very common example which is given in this is for a rope. In Indian philosophy, at many places, it is spoken about. Imagine a rope, say a rope at night. You might mistake it for a serpent. There's a story about an Indian saint who had gone to meet his wife during heavy rains, and he saw a rope dangling from her floor to the ground floor. He mistook it to be a rope, but it was actually a snake. And catching hold of that snake's tail and climbing up on that snake, he reached the balcony of his beloved. So this is wrong knowledge. You are seeing something but perceiving it as something else. It is not exactly what you saw. So even wrong knowledge can create a vritti, can create active thoughts inside you. And the third one is memory. What all we see, what all we hear, what all uh, gets inside us through our five sense organs gets stored. So what all gets stored can be active anytime. So that also is a vritti. And the fourth vritti he talks about is imagination. Anything we imagine is again a vritti. It can become active in us, but it is not true. It has still not happened. It may be fanciful imagination. It does not exist, but we have got it inside our head, and that is what is making it active. So that is what is an active thought. So it's a vritti. And he also talks about sleeping. He says sleeping is an activity which we normally do not do 24 hours. Sleeping is a deviation of the mind. Sleeping is something which has been there inside us from a long, long time. It is a conditioning of the mind. So when we get tired, this thought of sleep gets activated in us. And when it gets activated in us that the body needs rest, we go to rest. So in fact, sleep also is a vritti. So now just imagine कि anything you do while you are awake or you are sleeping is a vritti. Anything you do while you are awake or you are sleeping is a vritti. If you are thinking in terms of right knowledge, it is a vritti. If you are thinking in terms of wrong knowledge, it is a vritti. Everything which you are getting in through your sense organs are getting stored inside you. So that is memory. That memory is vritti. So if you are going into the past, that becomes vritti. You activate your memory. If you're going into the future, thinking about the future, then you're imagining it has not yet happened. It is still in the future. It could be fanciful. It could be a fantasy. So that also creates a vritti. And when you are sleeping, that also is a vritti. So the beauty is anything and everything which we are doing in our day-to-day existence as a normal human being is nothing but vritti. And that is why we experience our life as an individual, as a limited individual, as a finite individual, because we are fully active in vritti 24 hours, whether we are awake, whether we are dreaming, or we are sleeping. Yeah, is it clear? Any questions? Okay, so let's go further ahead. Uh, he says, how can these vrittis be removed? Vrittis can be removed. Okay, you can remove even the last vritti you have, because vritti is active thought. You might have thousands and 10,000s of passive thoughts. Those passive thoughts might be there inside your chitta, inside your mind, stored like a seed. Uh, they are called sanskaras. They might be there from many lifetimes, yet waiting to be, yet waiting to become active. They might be from this lifetime. So yoga has got nothing to do with them at this stage. Enlightenment, divinity, understanding the universal power has got nothing to do with these sleeping thoughts, with the dormant thoughts, with the sanskaras. They have only got to do with the active thoughts. And active thoughts are right knowledge, wrong knowledge, memory, imagination, and sleep.